So today we're going to talk about, Mike and Lisa, we're going to talk about just how your jobs change at home, what that's like when Mike's gone. So how do things change day to day for you when Mike isn't there?
Well, the lawn doesn't look nearly as good, for sure. He is my lawn boy, so those things like that, just
some day-to-day practical
day-to-day maintenance. Cooking for two is much harder than cooking for 3+. So those things change, just how the weight load, I guess, changes from we have more to take care of. Luckily, I do have a teenager in the house, so he does get assigned a few more things so that he can take on what Mike is not contributing to, because we do share it as a family. So those are probably the biggest things. I am the budgeter. Once we get to the finance part, I do take over all of that. I take over, all the communication that anything to do with the home has, or any of our day-to-day. So yeah, I mean,
it falls on your shoulders.
Right. It's single mom, yes, but not really, because I don't like to use that term whenever he's deployed.
Yeah.
But it feels
some of the
very much
things
the
are
same.
like that.
Very much the same.
So is there anything that's important for you not to change while Mike's gone?
One of the things is that Mike is still the man of the house. Even though Nate is under 18, I don't ever want him to feel the weight that he is the man of the house. And that's just a decision we have made, that he can rise to the occasion and contribute more, but he doesn't have to take on the hat as man of the house. I'm still the parent, and now I'm leading the home in that way in his absence. It's important to me that that doesn't change. It's important to me that we don't have to move, we don't have to change schools, things like that, as to stay consistent. The stability and the consistency of home stays pretty much the same.
So Mike, when you're deployed, how do you see your role as a husband, stepdad change?
I think we're very fortunate that we're both planners. I'm kind of an ad-libber at sometimes, but I think it's important that we planned out the things that, okay, got it, here's the transfer of, you're going to do this. We're going to talk, these are things we'll talk about on deployment if these arise, but here's the things that should just be a steady state flow of things. And then Nate did a really good job in stepping into just some of the things that can be done around the house, but still understanding that we communicate together to make decisions. So my role is still important to me, to be in decision making, not little, she can make all the decisions in the world, full power of attorney. That's how much faith I have in it, that it doesn't matter. I know who we are, really who we are in Christ and who we are together, that I have no doubt. Not everybody has that. And so I think for couples, it's very important to have just open, candid discussions on what does each section of your life look like during the deployment. And depending upon the age of your children, the way your children are brought into it are differently at the point too. For the deployments, my daughter was in college and then afterwards married, so that's different. But we still talked about deployments. With Nate, the first deployment we weren't married, but then the Afghanistan first deployment we were. And so we treated him differently because he was 10, like younger than at that time. So explaining things to him is a little bit different at that point. And we're fortunate, both are very patriotic, so there was no burden of the deployment on resentment for what I do. They were both very supportive, Corey and Nate. And I think the role change was understanding what the responsibilities were. Again, I knew I was still part of any big decision if I had to be, but then I was absolutely confident if for some reason she said, well, I sold this car and I had to get this differently or whatever, I knew that Lisa had our relationship, our marriage, our future, everything in the best interest of us.
So was there anything for you that was important that didn't change?
Like Lisa, we like stability, so I think it was important that the home didn't change, that we both made a decision, no career decisions on deployment. I've got 21 years active duty, so could retire, nope, decision's not going to be made. She has a very demanding job like most, but the decision is no decisions are going to change. We're not going to make life-altering decisions. So I think that was really our top two things. Although that she had full power of attorney, she wouldn't do an adoption or anything like that while I was gone.
You want to come home with a house
Oh,
full of
who are
kids?
these 4 people? Aren't they leaving soon? No, they're ours now. Oh, okay.
So when Mike comes back after deployment, you've been shouldering everything, the day-to-day stuff. Is that transition difficult to hand things back to him, to let him integrate back in?
Reintegration can be harder than deployment, in my opinion, and what we've experienced. Yes and no. Sometimes it's very easy to hand things over and say, yes, you do it.
Like the lawn.
Like the lawn and other things. But then we do have to work hard at molding back together again in the phases. He gets time off from work. He doesn't have to go right back to work. So that's really good for his emotional side to get back into the United States and get back into paying for food and remembering those things. For us, it's also a better pace at reintegrating back into, this is what our day-to-day looks like now. We're in a different grade at school. We have a different schedule. And this is the current schedule, and him learning that. We've gotten better at it, and so it can be harder, but he also has the mindset when he jumps in, just who he is, he's ready to take on whatever he can. Whatever I would like to give up or let him take over, he will. And those are just conversations that we've had prior to, and just in learning that this is the way we are going to handle it and the way we have handled it. So, but reintegration can take anywhere from 90 to 120 days, sometimes up to a year to get a new normal back. And so it is difficult at times.
How do you prepare yourself then coming back in?
Recognizing it first, recognizing everybody didn't go on pause while we're gone. Kids got bigger, Lisa's gotten another year old, you know what I mean? Things change while you're gone, and the absence of someone makes a change in and of itself. I think we're a lot better this reintegration because we both really recognize triggers now that are like, okay, hang on a second. Let's just pause for a minute. Let's really take a second. Let's have a quick, huddle real quick and go, okay, what's really the root of it? I'm being very deliberate of where it is. I think we did a very good job this time of getting away. We went to a marriage retreat. We try and stay proactive on communication and that. We don't want to go when it's an emergency. So in January, while I was deployed, Lisa found a great marriage retreat on communication, and we literally got away, and it just allowed us time to really talk and be together.
Yeah, I thought that was, when Lisa told me you guys were going to do that, I think it's a great idea just to have one get away, but also have a little structure around getting back on track with some things. It's really good.
And I think the other part, just being open and honest. Hey, it's a tough day, or hey, I'm feeling kind of a little different today. Things don't move at the speed of light.
Sure.
Pace is a big one.
And hey, I thought I talked about this once. That's right. I'm sorry. Maybe I have to say it a couple. You know what I mean? Just the realities of life. She reminds me of that.
Leaves the rank at the door.
She reminds me she's not a soldier.
Colonel rank stays at the door when you come in.
Stays at the
Park
door.
it. Park it outside.
That's right.
But I think we're both structured, so I think that helps. And honestly, all the transition, all the deployment, just being spiritually grounded. I think our relationship started that way.
Yep.
And I think I absolutely am convinced that if we didn't have that foundation, and it'd be really tough. And so that in of itself, I think, is probably the biggest thing in favor for us on a transition and deployment.
Both of us trying to stay as close to Christ as we can
Yeah.
individually.
Yeah, because, yeah, he's not going to do anything in either one of your lives that's not good for you or your marriage. Good. Thanks.